Hello and welcome to Flat Hat Online. I'm Kayla Sharpe, digital editor, and with me today is Eboni Brown and Hannah McKiernan, candidates for Student Assembly President and Vice President. So to begin, would you mind telling us why you're interested in running for President and Vice President of the Student Assembly?
Yes. Well, I have been involved in Student Assembly for the past 3 years, definitely understanding and learning what Student Assembly can do, as well as what Student Assembly can improve on. And in my roles as Senator of Class 2017, as well as the Chair of the Finance Committee, and also Senate Historian, I've really learned the ins and outs of Student Assembly, and I've really understood the sort of tool that Student Assembly can be, the advocate for the students, and also a direct link between the administration, the student body, and also the city of Williamsburg. So with that in mind, Hannah and I actually got together, had a conversation, and we understood some of the different obstacles that students on campus are facing. And we decided that we wanted to be those advocates, and this advocacy is something that we've always loved to do, and we wanted to continue to fight for the betterment of the students and getting the issues that are plaguing so many students here on campus addressed. So I know that's why, one of the first reasons why we decided to run for Student Assembly President and Vice President.
All right, so given your experience on the Student Assembly, how do you plan to reform or adjust the way that the Student Assembly functions?
So one of the things that Hannah and I are running on is a platform of inclusion, advocacy, and collaboration. And if I could briefly talk on the collaboration part, we want to make sure that we are out in the community and the community understands who we are and also who Student Assembly is and what we can do for campus. And a way that we can do that is by hosting weekly office hours, getting Student Assembly members in different clubs and organizations meetings so people can have a point person to contact if they have any questions, and also just working and striving to be active voices on campus.
Sure. And although Ebony has the vast majority of experience when compared to me, I think that something that we're interested to see what we can do is really, like Ebony was saying, putting our faces out there to students. I think we've been trying to do that a lot throughout our campaign, but just making sure that we're approachable voices for the student body, and also just using that that information that we gain from students to help inform our advocacy to the Board of Visitors, to the administration, and the various bills that we would want to help see go through Student Assembly.
So Hannah, what experiences in other campus organizations do you think will allow you to be a very effective Vice President of the Student Assembly?
Sure. So I am involved a little bit in Student Assembly this year as the Undersecretary of Public Affairs to Richmond, which involves helping to plan the Road to Richmond event, which is our lobbying day, as well as just keeping communication open between Williamsburg and Richmond with our state senator, as well as our House of Delegates representative, both of which I have really great relationships with. So I think having that relationship will already help me to be a strong advocate to the General Assembly in terms of what we want here at William and Mary, and what Student Assembly and students view as being very important. And then in terms of other involvement, I'm very involved in community service and political advocacy. So I'm the Vice President of Alpha Phi Omega, which is the co-ed service fraternity here at William and Mary. And I think that my involvement in that has taught me how to be a part of a really large organization and still be an effective leader, because we're one of the largest on-campus student organizations. So that means I can work with a bunch of different moving parts at one time, which I think will help if I were to be elected as Vice President of the Student Assembly. And then also just through political advocacy, I know what it's like to have to advocate on behalf of somebody else. So I think to get somebody elected, that's really what you got to do. And I think that I would be able to advocate on behalf of students as soon as I know what they need from me. I'm ready and capable of advocating for them.
So a large portion of your platform touches on issues like mental health and sexual assault. Would you mind sharing some of your specific plans for these topics? And also, how would you plan to get all of your goals accomplished in only a year in office?
Sure. So what Ebony and I are really focusing our campaign on is not only things that we can get solved in a year, but things that we can work on for 5-10 years, lay the groundwork for, and if we were to be elected for our year in office, and then make sure that that these issues are extended after we leave. And then just to touch on mental health briefly, I'm a student with a mental illness, so I feel very strongly about the importance of advocacy for students with mental illnesses like myself. So I think part of our platform is increasing student assembly attention to mental illness and mental health awareness. So that includes increasing events that deal with mental health awareness, working with William & Mary Speaks and a couple of other organizations that are very important and do a lot of amazing work on mental health awareness. And I think that by being partners with those organizations, we can really help to advocate to the Board of Visitors and to the administration with their expertise and know what students want, because we know year after year this is an issue that is very prevalent and very important to students. And the same goes with sexual assault. We think that there's a lot of room to grow in terms of sexual assault prevention on campus. Same with mental health. There's been a lot of awesome strides that have been made through the administration over the past couple years, but we think that there's a larger role for the student assembly.
So as two individuals who have experience in the student assembly, what would you say to students who question the effectiveness or the transparency of the student assembly?
Well, I would say that the student assembly itself has a lot we can improve upon, and transparency is one of those things. So for people who question our transparency, I would love to hear, what it is they would like to see us do more. But I know personally, different things such as like the SA website and different things like that, we can definitely work more to get out there in the community and make sure that we're stepping outside the student assembly bubble to actually be effective advocates for students. So whether that's having an office out on the terrace, whether that's being in club and organization meetings, making sure that we're present so that students can come and contact us and we're approachable. So therefore, like any issues of transparency on that sort of front can be addressed.
Yeah, and then in terms of effectiveness, I think that you can look at Eboni's record in terms of producing bills in the student assembly, where she's helped to co-sponsor and pass 12 bills in this past year alone, which is a ton. And a lot of them are very important to students, like the STI testing, as well as just a lot of other initiatives that Eboni has spearheaded. So I think there is obviously a lot of validity to the claim that student assembly can be ineffective at times, but I think I have the most awesome running mate for being somebody who is extremely effective in her role, knows the ins and outs of the student assembly, and would able to mitigate those problems if she were to be president of the organization.
So what voices do you feel are underrepresented in the student assembly? And if elected, how would you choose to make the organization more inclusive and open?
If I could just pick a few groups of voices that are just not necessarily represented within our Senate body, it would, there are a lot of students of color that we have here on campus that we definitely need to make sure that we're reaching out to, students with disabilities, and some of the more non-traditional forms of diversity that you don't necessarily think about when you think about diversity. So students who are first-generation college students, and students who come from international backgrounds. Like all of these students have diversity in their own different way. So as far as groups that we're not reaching out to, those are just a few. And I think a way that we can help and work towards doing that is recruiting more and more diverse candidates for our cabinet positions. The elections are already coming up, and those are sort of solidified with candidates within those positions. But for our cabinet positions, there are so many ways that we can get more students involved in student assembly and get more diversity into student assembly so that we can have viewpoints that are truly representative of campus rather than a small portion of campus. And a few things that I know Hannah and I are working towards doing within our own platform and within our own campaign is working to expand I Am William & Mary Week to more than just a 1-week celebration of diversity, but to a year-long program sort of series of events where we could have different speakers come in and talk on different forms of diversity. So we could have a speaker come in and talk about what it's like to be someone with a disability and graduating college and making it in the actual real world in a sense. We could have a speaker come in and talk about what it's like to be a student of color on a PWI. Or we could just have different sorts of events so that diversity can stay on the forefront of people's minds, and we really can keep a conversation going. We can get that conversation going. We've seen some of the issues that we have surrounding race relations here on campus. So continue to work with the task force on race relations so that students feel that William & Mary is an inclusive environment for them. Also working with administration to advocate for more diversity in faculty. Making sure that students here that are diverse are represented as well in their faculty as well, so they see people that look like them who are teaching some of their classes is something that we're really pushing for. Now, Hannah and I can't go out and hire those teachers, but what we can do is advocate and start the conversation, and also work with the Center for Student Diversity for inclusivity training for professors that we have now, so that professors know how to create an inclusive environment within their own classrooms. And last but certainly not least, continuing the strides that are being made within the realm of gender neutrality here on campus, continuing to fight for even more gender neutral facilities here on campus for the buildings that don't have them, and working towards even more possible gender neutral housing options so that students can feel comfortable, so that when students come in the next 5, 10, 15 years, that's not an issue that they face. They don't face an issue of William & Mary not being inclusive. They come into a community where right away, from the very moment they step foot on this campus, they understand that they belong here and that they will thrive here.
What are your biggest takeaways from the current Student Assembly administration, and what would be your biggest changes if elected?
I think something that we've really admired in Johanse and Katie's leadership this year is their willingness to speak with students and to be very open with the Student Assembly members in their leadership. I think that they're very frank about things that they think they can improve on and things that they think they're doing well, and being willing to get feedback from the people within Student Assembly I think is really important, and I think that's something that Eboni and I would definitely want to continue. And I'll let.
And definitely, and learning from some of the things that were bumps in the road for them. So learning from different things they had to go to with the website. So then when we worked to implement a website on the William & Mary server so that it's a continuous and sustainable thing, we can kind of do that with ease because they've sort of gone over the road bumps in the road, if that makes some sense. And also just making sure that we don't come in with the intentions of following what has been done. We want to come in and help to start conversations and start to lay the groundwork for sustainable change here on campus. And we can definitely learn from what has happened and what Johanse and Katie have accomplished and the time in office. But we also want to make sure that we're reaching out a little bit further than they could, and making sure that we're reaching out into different areas of campus, and that an inclusive environment is starting to be fostered, that people can feel comfortable. So definitely extending their reach and working beyond what they were able to accomplish to continue a sense of change here on campus and start to lay the groundwork for further conversations so that when we come back in 10 years, we can start to see some really great changes on campus. We're not just governing for 1 year. We want to definitely work to govern for 5 years and 10 years, and that's the focus of our campaign, looking in the long term, looking for continuous change and looking for a William & Mary that is becoming more reflective of the community, and not necessarily one tribe, one family, but one tribe with many perspectives, and we're all one. And we're working together to make William & Mary better. So Hannah and I are ready to advocate for the students and definitely fight for what we believe in, and the Student Assembly president and vice president can do just that, and learning from the mistakes of the past can definitely help us improve on them and create successes in the future.
All right, Eboni, Hannah, thank you so much for your time and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
For continuous coverage of the 2016 Student Assembly elections, be sure to visit flathatnews.com.